Well, let's get the very latest for you on the situation in the east of Ukraine. I'm joined now by Ed Arnold. Ed is a research fellow at the Royal United Services Institute, or RUSI, as some of us know it. Ed, good to have you back on the programme. So well over 100 days into this brutal war now. What is the situation on the ground in the east, which is the area we can see here, can't we, in the red and white stripes?
So Russians in the east are starting to make steady progress, and it's really centred around the city of Severodonetsk. Advances using heavy use of artillery in order to try and take that city, and also Russian forces stepping up their propaganda campaign against Ukrainian troops in the area starting to receive text messages designed to lower Ukrainian morale, which must be starting to lower. For the first time in this war, Ukraine has gone public with its casualty figures, and it's assessed with a range of about 100 to 150 killed in action a day and between 500 and 800 wounded in action also per day. That's unsustainable at the moment, and while Ukraine have been very successful at mobilising, they've roughly doubled their available forces since the start of the war. These are relatively inexperienced potential troops, and on the east they made the decision at the start of the war to put their most experienced troops on the contact line in the Donbass. So this is a real critical time for Ukraine at the moment.
Yeah, it sounds absolutely brutal, doesn't it, on the ground? And of course, we had President Zelensky talking last night saying the fate of Severodonetsk is going to determine the fate of the whole of this region. I mean, do you agree with that on a military point of view?
Not quite from a military point of view, but potentially politically. Right. So Severodonetsk is very important, but Ukraine are actually choosing to fight forward at the moment. So they're actually trying to fight and draw Russian forces in to fight hand to hand and really within the city themselves. They don't have to. They could have withdrawn west to Lysychansk, which is actually defensively a better area, and also it means that you have the Seversky Donets River that actually is it's a natural defensive location which the Ukrainians would be able to use. But what Ukraine is trying to do is delay the Russian advance because they need time. They need time to get Western heavier weapons up.
Which we talked about earlier this week, didn't we? These long-range missile systems.
Exactly. Artillery, rockets, they've got a longer range than the Russian systems. They're more mobile and also they're more accurate. So in order to do a proper counter-offensive from a Ukrainian point of view and start to try and win back some of this territory, they really need that heavier, not just firepower, but they also need manoeuvre capabilities, so tanks as well. So they're trying to buy time to be able to bring that forward and then get it into the battle, which will be very effective when they were able to do so.
OK, let's get your views on some reports coming out as well from the UK Ministry of Defence saying that Russia is on manoeuvres elsewhere in the east of this area. So what do you think is going on here?
So in terms of Izium, so the main axis in mid-April when phase 2 of this war started and Russia wanted to focus in the east and the south, it was all centred on Izium. It was so important that reportedly the Chief of the General Staff was personally taking command of that operation. But after about 4 weeks, that really stalled. What's happening now is they're starting to get tempo and momentum back into their operations, and they're starting to be able to move southeast. And why is this important? Well, if they continue that momentum and they're able to resource it at the same time that they can put pressure on Severodonetsk, they can start to move on Sloviansk to the north, which puts the Ukrainian position quite difficult, and they're going to have to start to move back to try and protect Sloviansk to keep the Donbass contested at the moment.
The mood seems to have changed somewhat, doesn't it? It seems to be certainly more downbeat when looking at Ukrainian progress. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I mean, this is very heavy fighting, and the fact that the Ukrainian forces have managed to hold out as long as they had and really blunt the Russian offensives in a number of areas is really important. And they do want to counterattack, and counterattacking is more of a mindset. They really want to do it. They just don't currently have the capabilities in the right place. If they're able to bring more forces forward, fresher troops, and also get these capabilities from the West, get trained on them, and then be able to bring them to bear in this area, then the momentum might switch back to Ukraine's way.
OK, Ed, for now, thank you very much. Plenty more from Ed Arnold throughout the course of our time here on Sky.